Nigeria Decides 2023, and we're live here in CRBC TV channel 27 Calabar. My name is Joseph Ian, and Faith?
Yeah, of course, I'm Faith Okon. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, before we went on our break, we had to do an opening, and remember, before we came live on the show, we had to join Abuja for the announcement of the first result coming in from Ekiti State. And now we have joined us to take a look at some statistics and some legal perspective of this year's election. We have Barrister Esu Ekanem. He is a member of the Directorate of Legal, APC, Cross River State. Barrister Esu, so good to have you. Good evening.
Yes, thank you. It's my pleasure and honor to be here.
Okay, so Barrister, let's quickly look at the election. Let's start first by, what's your updates like? How did the election yesterday hit you as a Nigerian?
Okay, thank you very much for the privilege. First and foremost, I must commend INEC for conducting the elections. And from the feelers we've gathered, we have a wide range of peaceful election across the country. And we are still waiting for INEC or other states to collect and return their results. And as a matter of fact, you know, the results we've been seeing on the internet cannot be authenticated until INEC says so. So that is the position for now. As you displayed earlier, Ekiti State have turned in their results. Yes.
Okay, so were there things that excited you yesterday or things that caused you some sort of concern?
Well, as somebody who personally participated in the election, I saw a commendable situation, and the way the voters behaved and coordinated themselves across boards is quite commendable. And there are no surprises for now. No cause for alarm so far.
Okay.
Sorry, is that for Cross River State, or you've taken a swipe at
yes,
the nation?
I've also made contacts across to other states of the Federation. And apart from Kogi, where there are videos circulating on the social media, and a pocket of polling units in Lagos, I think we have a wide range of peaceful election.
Okay, now let's look at, because the legality of the new Naira design. Now that is putting it side by side with the intent to stop vote trading. Now let's look at that. Did it come at the right time? Was it truly aimed at hitting up politicians to shut down vote trading? What's the legality all about around it?
Okay, thank you very much. As I said in our previous session, the powers to redesign currency is vested in the Central Bank of Nigeria, and during the build-up to the 2023 general elections, they come up with the Naira redesign policy. And it's been widely speculated that was orchestrated purposely to curb the incidences of vote buying across the nation. And from what we have seen so far, and even the results tickling in, we can say for a fact that that policy has, to a large extent, curbed the issue of vote buying. Because so far, you would agree with me that even the politicians cannot access physical cash. Although it is said that all cash is money, but not all money is cash. So we know that even though they have the money in the banks, they cannot access the physical cash to buy the votes. And most times, where the bulk of the votes come from, in the rural areas, the hinterlands, where majority of the residents there do not have bank account numbers, and as such, you cannot even contemplate transferring money to influence their decision at the polls. So it's quite commendable, even though its negative effects have also hit hard on Nigerians. But I commend that policy so far.
So outside the fact that it has influenced a sort of transparency.
Yes.
You know, in the elections, people get to vote their consciences,
Very well.
not the money is
Very
right.
well. Very well.
What other advantage do you think this has?
Yes.
Sorry, coming against the backdrop of the Supreme Court's order to hold that, date slated for the completion or the stoppage of the usage of the naira, of the old naira.
Yes.
So against that backdrop.
Okay. The interim order was not, unfortunately, obeyed by the federal government, and I cannot say why the president did not obey that order, although he made some relaxations with regard to the 200 naira denomination. The matter has not been substantially decided yet, so we are still waiting for the Supreme Court to make its pronouncement on that issue. And as a lawyer, when a matter is in court, you talk with a certain level of caution.
So is it still in court?
Yes, because the matter is still sub judice. Yes.
Let's look at let me now go to Ekiti now. Your party, the APC, scored 201,494 to be declared winners in terms of Ekiti votes. PDP came close with 89,554. LP came third with 11,397 and NNPP 264. Let's look at this. Let's look at the Southwest. This is the first state in the Southwest and the first state in Nigeria that has pushed out their result.
Okay. Very well. We have seen the results from Ekiti, and as a party faithful, I am quite elated. But we need to keep calm and wait until other states turn in their results, because by the provision of Section 134 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there are certain thresholds that must be met for you to be declared the president-elect of the Federal Republic. They are, namely, you must not only score the highest number of votes, legally votes cast at the election, you must also garner 25% in at least 2/3 of the states, which if you want to go by permitted calculation, 24 states. So you need 25% of votes cast in that state, in a state, in at least 24 states, for you to be declared the winner of that election. And if that threshold is not met, and that threshold is sequel to the fact that where there are more than 2 presidential candidates, and a lot of people have said that this is a 3-horse race. So there are more than 2 presidential candidates in this election. So we are still waiting to see results from other states coming, and hopefully we know that my party, the APC, will meet the threshold. But that is the constitutional threshold. You must score the highest number of valid votes cast in the election, and you must also have at least 25% in 24 states for you to be declared the winner.
So do you see a possibility of a runoff? The way the way we saw the race going with the 3 front burner parties, do you see a possibility of a runoff?
Well, there have been a lot of predictions, and even INEC have said that they are ready, they are prepared for a runoff because of the stiff competition in the election. So I am not predicting a runoff, but even the INEC is prepared for a runoff. So if you can't meet that threshold, there will be need for a runoff. And in the runoff, it is not all the candidates that will participate, only 2 will go. The first is the candidate with the highest number of votes, and the second, the candidate with the highest number of votes in the highest states that will go in for the runoff. Yes.
Okay, so let's look at the elections, let me just take you back a little bit since you're a barrister. There were some places in Lagos State and those states that complained that the Labour Party, for example, didn't have, their logo on the ballot paper. Some of them actually had Labour Party completely missing from the ballot paper. Do you think that that could actually be something to hold on to in the future?
Well, it's an allegation, and that allegation has not been officially confirmed by INEC. But if that be the case, it's a ground for challenging the elections, because if you have been cleared by INEC to be on the ballot, that party should be on the ballot. Yes.
There's a particular state, I wouldn't want to mention the name, that had the same challenge. So I think it was for senatorial, for the National Assembly, and that was moved now to March 11.
Yes.
So it's not just an allegation, it's something that actually happened yesterday.
Very well.
And one of the parties, LP precisely, was completely missing on the ballot paper.
Very well.
So can that raise any legal concern?
Well, INEC has moved the elections, as you said, to the 11th, so they will be given the leeway to vote for the party of their choice. Yes, come that day, yes.
Okay.
And that vote will also be added.
Okay, yes. I'm here wondering because, excuse me, we have elections that held today because they were postponed from yesterday due to some issues they had in those places. And the election that has been moved to the 11th. Now, would we still have announcements of this result regardless of the ones that have not been, run yet?
Yes, it depends on the strength of the votes there in those areas. If the totality of votes returned is sufficient enough to meet the threshold, the constitutional threshold for declaration of the winner will be declared.
Regardless?
Yes, regardless, yes.
Now,
unless the votes in those areas are sufficient enough to give a different coloration or flavor to the outcome of the elections, then we need to wait for those areas to turn in their results.
Okay, about 6 years ago in Kogi State, while the elections, I think they had gone far, they were counting results. The late Audu Abubakar died in the midst of, he was the leading candidate. So at this moment, what is the Electoral Act saying? What's the law saying? Peradventure, one of these 4 horse riders drops dead while we are still having collation. What's the law saying?
Well, by the extant provision of the Electoral Act, the election will be postponed and conducted within 21 days if a candidate dies now. So that is the provision of the Electoral Act.
The election has been conducted already. We are at
before
the point of collation.
Yes,
point of collation before declaration of results.
Yes. There will be room for. You can't say elections have been conducted, but the winner have not been declared. Yes. So in that event, the elections will be adjourned till the next 21 days, and a fresh election conducted.
All of them will happen in Kogi?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I am looking at, the for me, I felt that was quite extreme. Well, but that doesn't
happen.
Yeah, this
About 6
happens.
years ago in Kogi State.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's similar. It's important to bring that question so that we get to know just in case. But outside death, what else could happen to truncate the announcement of those elections? Because, like it or not, we've seen videos of people protesting because they were not given, they seem to be disenfranchised. So that is in Bayelsa State. We've also seen that in some parts of Lagos, in Abuja, Lube in Abuja. So we've had people protesting. So can that stop anything?
Well, it's in the hands of INEC to look at, because you can't just truncate the announcement of results on the platter of the fact that there were pockets of irregularities here and there.
Okay.
The irregularities must be substantial enough to affect the outcome of the election. Yeah. So if they are not substantial, the pockets of irregularities we have seen on social media are not substantial enough to affect the outcome of the
So
election.
are protests substantial enough?
Protest will not ripen to insurrection, excepting so. But if people protest and register their grievances, they are not actually going to scuttle the announcement. Yes.
Okay. So in 2015, we saw INEC announcing the final result on Wednesday. Now, this was an election that was done on Saturday. Now, in 2019, we saw INEC announcing the result on Tuesday. Now, is there no legal timing that, look, it shouldn't go beyond so time? Or can we say drag it until a week time before results announced? What's the framework constitutionally given to announcement of presidential result? Look, if it gets after 30 days, there's something, there could be a problem.
Yes, it must be announced timeously, and that is also dependent on how fast the returning officers and collation officers turn in their results. We have seen states coming in. So far, Ekiti have submitted their results, and before the close of work tomorrow, a lot of other states will also bring in their results. But it is instructive to note that while we wait for them, that should also be dependent on INEC, because we have introduced the electronic transmission of results system. So they can rely on that if they have the electronically transmitted results to announce the winner, because it is the electronically transmitted results that take preeminence over the manual results.
And that is where we have some little issue.
Yes,
because initially what we were told was that polling unit officers were to upload the results after announcing to the public, to upload it to the server immediately. That's before they even leave the polling unit.
Very
but
well.
that had not been done. Have you heard that it was done anywhere? That's
Yes.
one. And secondly, because right now we're hearing a different, information that the polling unit results will be moved to the ward, from the ward to the local government areas, from the local government areas to the states, and then they move them to Abuja. So these two conflicting information, what exactly is? And is this any ground for anyone to drag INEC to court?
Yes, very well. Because one of the grounds for challenging the outcome of an election is that the election was not conducted with substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act and the election guidelines. We have been told by INEC that results will be electronically transmitted, but the INEC chairman some hours ago came out to cast blames on polling unit officers for not doing so. Whatever reasons they may have advanced here and there for their inability to transmit results is not acceptable by Nigerians, because a lot of persons even decided to go into this election, or better still vote, because of the assurance they had that the results will be electronically transmitted. So if that is truncated, that means the whole essence of BVAS and the much ado around it has been defeated,
Exactly.
which has impeached on the credibility of the electoral process.
Okay, let's look at let's just stick on that BVAS about the credibility now. Sometime last year, Osun State had their elections, and Governor Adeleke was brought in. And a few weeks back, we saw the court coming out to upturn that result, with the position that there was a bypass of the BVAS. We had more voters than those that were accredited. So let's look at this. If such technicalities also arises in this election, does it give sufficient ground to take the matter to court?
Very well, very well. Because if INEC deploys means and technology for the conduct of election, and it's not fair for you to change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. So if the results are not transmitted electronically, it can ripen into a ground for challenging the outcome of the elections. And I must say that BVAS was bettered by Section 50, Sub 2 of the Electoral Act, and also given judicial blessing in the case of Nwike Ezemo and Dakuku Peter side. So that has gotten sufficient legality for it to be used in this election. And if they come up tomorrow and say that they cannot transmit result electronically again for whatsoever reason, it can form a ground for challenging the outcome of the elections. And mind you, it is also very pertinent to note here that by the provision of Section 65 of the Electoral Act, whoever is declared the winner is not altogether the winner until after 7 days, because that provision says that INEC reserves the power to announce another candidate if after collation of the manual results and of course comparing it with the electronically transmitted results, there are substantial irregularities which is enough to show that the person who was earlier declared the winner was not supposed to be declared. Then INEC will now reverse itself and declare the authentic winner. Okay,
so that's a window for INEC to just tighten up.
Very well, within 7 days.
Within 7 days. But they also brought up something else and said that no candidate should go to court after shortly before the inauguration of the winner.
After the inauguration.
Okay, after the inauguration. Okay.
So all matters that must be filed.
It's time bound.
Yes, must be filed before the swearing in of the candidate.
Okay. Now let's look at the Electoral Act. This, was a lot of Nigerians got so excited last year when this act, after several years, was finally signed into law by His Excellency Mr. President. Now the question is this Electoral Act 2022 the real game changer for general elections 2023?
Yes. One problem with the Nigerian polity is not paucity of laws. We have a lot of commendable laws in this country, but the problem has always been that of implementation. The Electoral Acts have copious provisions sufficient enough to ensure a free, fair and credible elections in Nigeria. But now, when you start deploying technology in a country like ours, you'd always have issues that have sprung up in these elections. She earlier mentioned the fact that we've had issues of uploading of results, and I can tell you that a lot of results are yet to be uploaded. For whatever reasons, they have advanced. But to me, those reasons are not tenable enough, because these questions were thrown to INEC. What will happen in event where there is network failure and there are glitches and malfunctioning of BVAS? They assured Nigerians that they are equal to the task and that they have deployed technology that cannot be hacked nor tampered with. So people went into this election with that mindset, and of the firm belief and view that before the end of tomorrow, those irregularities should be corrected. And where we have failure of BVAS, they should please, INEC should give room for elections to be reconducted in those places.
Okay, I was just asking, is it not too late to correct any irregularities? Because the results have started being collated already, and
yes, they can cancel results in those areas and order for fresh elections in those areas.
So
because the game changer is BVAS, and that is because they have told us that the electronically transmitted result is superior to the manual results, because the manual results can be manipulated at the field, but the results electronically transmitted cannot be manipulated. Like in my polling unit yesterday, I was queuing up for my turn to come for me to vote. A woman came hurriedly and said she has a baby at home. She wants to go back and take care of her baby. So we had to give her concession to vote. And quite unfortunately, she has already voted in another polling unit.
Let me just cut it. We have Barrister Ekpenyong Akaba on the telephone. Barrister Ekpenyong, good evening.
Good evening.
Barrister, you're live on Nigeria Decides 2023 CRBC Election Studios. Okay, Barrister Ekpenyong, real quick, let us get to know your thoughts on the first result that just came in from Ekiti State. We have APC winning with 201,494, PDP 89,554, LP 11,397, and NNPP 264. What's your thought on the first result announced so far?
Well, it's a clear expression of the people's votes. Like I've said in several forums, this particular election is indeed evidential of democratic principles being adhered to. And we must commend our president, who is indeed a Democrat. You could see that the four major political parties that have been campaigning frontally have also enjoyed votes in the country. But beginning with Ekiti, which my party, our party, is leading, you know, it's a result that we all celebrate and commend the people of Ekiti having expressed their votes with the APC leader.
Is it not too early to celebrate, considering the fact that, I mean, we all know that the Southwest is the candidate's stronghold?
It's not too early because regardless of the fact that votes are still being collated and elections are still on in most of the areas that experience one each or the other. Why it is not early? In this critical moment, we must commend every result that comes in that is positive for the APC. And we also know that regionally, the six regions have different leadership in the country, and majorly has been expressed. People are going four directions, and it seems to be a regional expected result, which you'll see in coming hours.
Okay, so Barrister Ekpenyong, can we know the exact timeline for announcement of results? Because in 2015 we saw announcement of presidential results on Wednesday. 4 years back we saw on Tuesday. When exactly is INEC supposed to announce results? Looking at the legal timeline.
I don't think there is any specific timeline to my knowledge exactly now, because elections are supposed to be announced when they are fully collated. Don't forget that there are several natural tendencies that cannot be controlled, and those results, those votes in those areas, especially where we are talking about relevant spread for an election result to be announced, even within a federal constituency. So in as much as voting is still on in some areas, coalitions are still on, the Independent National Electoral Commission has no other choice to make other than to wait and collate. And like you said, it could be 3 days time, it could be 4 days time. It is better to take time and get it right rather than to rush and get things done wrong.
Okay, I'm sure that you have interacted with your contemporaries from other states. Looking at the fact that the winner of these elections must have about 25% of votes from 24 states. What do you see from what you have heard, the feelers you have gotten from other states?
Well, I'm hopeful that the APC will win the country, because so far, we are leading in terms of that spread. So we are hoping that nothing will go differently than my expectation.
So, Pastor Koyo, let's get to know, what do you think could be the technical issues that may rise for the likes of you, the likes of Barrister Sue Ekanem, on the studio, is in the studio with us, to take a matter to court? Because we know the lawyers, once once we are done with the election, you see the tribunals heating up. So what do you think would...
When the electoral malpractices and irregularities, then it can go to court.
So far, have you seen any?
It is those who lose in an election that go to court.
So far, have you seen any, have you observed any form of malpractice on the side of INEC?
Well, what there are few complaints here and there, and mostly the machine network challenges, failure to arrive at the polling unit on time, failure to have adequate mobilization by way of transportation, and all that. And in some areas, skirmishes here and there, and ballot destructions. So when there are all those sort of circumstances, where the votes in that area will not obstruct the result, it can be cancelled. And where, like today, where there is a window, there could be another election. But for me, I don't see us going to court. I see us closing to victory.
Okay, so you see APC closing to victory. That means you don't expect a runoff.
Yeah, in the country, I don't see any runoff. Although people are foreseeing runoff, but I am not expecting a runoff.
Okay, so before I let you go finally, let's get your thoughts on the outcome of this first election. What impact would it have on the March 11th election?
Yes, March 11th election will be a local election, because when I say local, it has to do with the individual state, whereby circumstances and political scenarios and situations will differ. So, for me, yes, politics has a lot of downward effects. Yes, politics also have a lot of influence on the people. But where the people have made up their mind to take a particular direction, regardless of what the circumstance will be, regardless of what the permutations are, they will still vote that direction. So, in states that you've seen different results at the National Assembly election, expect to also see possible different results that will not correspond with the initial expression. So even when you've seen in the South, for instance, like in Cross River, for instance, where there's been massive voting for Labour Party, you don't expect Labour Party to win Cross River, I hope so. Labour Party does not even have a government candidate that can win election, and a one that is known. So people will still go back in the state election and vote what is their own interest. National election is different from state election.
Okay, so we saw something different during these the national elections. We saw that the Labour Party was leading. Let's take Cross River State, for example, and we also saw that trickled into the National Assembly elections. So most persons went across the board voting for the Labour Party, regardless of the fact that the candidates, for the Labour Party was not even popular. So when you say a candidate cannot win elections in a particular area, considering what happened yesterday, is that still your notion?
Yes, now don't forget that the presidential election that held yesterday held side by side with National Assembly election, in which majority of the voters who are not that literally given 3 ballot papers, and because of their intention to follow a particular presidential interest, so as not to meet that interest, they joined the 3 ballots and campaign Labour Party. So now, those who run National Assembly election became beneficiaries of the Labour Party presidential benefits, as is the Excellency Peter Obi. So for me, that will be a different scenario where the people know that they are targeting a particular governorship candidate in a particular party. And to that extent also, how an assembly candidate that has a popular governorship candidate like Prince Utu, for instance, who enjoys such free votes. For me, it's a benefit of those who were targeted to vote for Peter Obi that the National Assembly members have enjoyed. And in the country, we hope to see some Labour Party House of Reps and senators who were not even popular, who don't even know those who are voting for them, putting for them to win.
Mr. Kweyoung, just in 10 seconds, what would be your message to Nigerians, no matter the outcome of this first election, in terms of maintaining peace, irrespective of where the pendulum swings to?
Yeah, for me, the advice is INEC. INEC have to learn their lesson and improve coming into the next election, especially as it concerns material release and meeting up with time of election to begin. And for Nigerians, it's a process that is maturing gradually. We must always ensure that we adhere to peaceful elections and come out to vote so that our expression will be by way of ballot. Peace is the only landmark that can lead to democratic development. Where there is no peace, we will not have a nation. So, Labour Party win this country, though they will not win. APC win this country, PDP win this country, if they do, they will not win. Nigeria will win because we are first Nigerians before we are members of political parties.
Barrister Kweyoung Akaba, media aide to the gubernatorial candidate of APC. Thank you very much for your time on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Regards to my learned senior there, it's so just quiet.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Castle.
you. Okay, so Barrister, so you heard it there from him. Now let's go back, because he had to, align his thoughts with some of your expressions as regards those things, technicalities, irregularities that may lead people like you, learned colleagues like you, to head to the tribunal. So he had mentioned quite a number there. Let's look at most of these things. Can't we always, at the end of the day, accept if you are being defeated? Can't you accept most? We always go to court at the end of every election.
Yes, where the law provides a window for people like aggrieved members of the society to seek redress, it is not proper to shut those people out, because the end point of it may be resort to self-help. There are grounds under our extant electoral law for challenging the outcome of an election. One is that the person whose election is being complained of was not qualified to contest the election as at when the election was held. And there are provisions of the Constitution that speaks to qualification of a candidate. And if a candidate is not qualified, it will be injustice to an abuse on the sensibility of Nigerians for you to even allow that person to lead you. So another ground is that if you are declared winner, but in fact and in reality, you are not the person who scored the highest number of lawful vote cast, you can be aggrieved. The respondent can be aggrieved and challenge the election. And also, if you submitted to INEC before the elections information that are false, gravely false, it can also form a ground for challenging the election. Back to your question in specifics, you looking at a situation where people can just accept defeat and go home. Fine, it will be a very wonderful scenario to behold. But you know that if you are aggrieved and there is a window for you to ventilate your grievance legally, it is better than people to take to streets, your supporters to take to streets and start protesting. You know, one thing about elections is that when once someone, as my colleague said, it is always the losers that go to court to challenge the outcome of the elections. And I feel if people feel aggrieved, they should go to court, rather than when they go to court, the nerves of their supporters may be somewhat calmed and waiting for the outcome of the unbiased umpire, which is the judiciary, rather than their supporters taking to street to protest the outcome of the election.
We've seen a similar case in Imo State. Remember that scenario? He went to court and from fourth position became governor.
Yes, that judgment has been widely criticized.
But
And,
yes, so a point
and
there
the
is,
new electoral act has
sorry, I
taken
have
care
to
of this.
interrupt
Yes.
you there. I mean, why wasn't anything done? We heard the wide criticisms and we thought that the judiciary would do something about it. But nothing was done about it.
Yes, that is as a result of the finality of the Supreme Court's jurisdiction. You know, Oputa JSC or blessed memory said that the Supreme Court is not final because they are infallible, but they are infallible because they are final. So whatever the Supreme Court gives out as a judgment is binding and is final. It cannot be upturned except in a subsequent case. So you saw that there were a lot of public outcry. A lot of lawyers went to court, the likes of Kanu Agabi, a great legal icon, Afe Babalola, went to court to see how the Supreme Court can upturn itself. But they said, no, we are final. There's nothing we can do about this case. But that issue has been arrested and taken care of by the provisions of the new Electoral Act. So I can assure you that nobody can jump the gun any longer. Yes.
Let's look at the four big guys. Let me use that word: APC, PDP, LP, and NPP. Who do you think amongst them would likely head to court?
Well,
because we know
I'm quite certain.
Atiku he's not a newcomer to when it has to do with tribunal cases. Always
neither is the Labour Party candidate. We
Really?
understand that
Okay.
during his tenure he was impeached twice,
yeah.
and he got to court, and
And
it
got
was
his
upturned
victory.
absolutely 2 times. So
I'm quite certain that APC is going to win this election with the spread and constitutional threshold in our pockets. But if we win, I know we will win, the other 2 candidates may decide to go to court. And it is not just going to court. It is going to court with material evidence sufficient enough to upturn the elections. So whatever is the outcome, which we are still waiting to celebrate the outcome, because I know His Excellency Asiwaju is going to win this election. And if he wins, the other 2 aggrieved candidates.
So what if he does not win?
He will win.
I'm just saying, what if he does not
he
win?
will
Would
go
you
to court.
expect him to go to court?
Well, there is no if in this issue because we have done our background check and statistics. We are confident that he's going to win the election.
This is politics.
So far, the first result we are leading. So it's a point
a
that
very small
still have
state.
it's a good omen. It's a good omen.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
it's a
of
good
course.
omen.
But you've not answered the question. There's a possibility. Yes, he might have stand a chance to win, a very strong chance to win, according to you. But there's also the other part of if he doesn't, what happens? Do
If
you
he
foresee
doesn't,
him going to court?
if he doesn't win, I can't speak for him on that. But if we have sufficient evidence to show that the victory was a Pyrrhic victory, or such that did not comply with the provisions of the law, of course we are going to challenge the outcome of the elections in court. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, Barrister Su, about 3 years ago in Bayelsa State, somewhere in Yenagoa, we saw David Leon, who was having his day doing his rehearsals for his inauguration, which was supposed to be in 24 hours. And suddenly we got a matter from the court disqualifying him because of his the deputy who had some issues with certificates. Now let's look at this joint ticket issue. Supposing any of the vice presidential candidates has a challenge, this guy bought his form on his own for the president, and just the vice president coming in to have issues, it disqualifies them because of the joint ticket. Let's look at this.
Absolutely. But can we just take a break before you respond to that? So hold your thoughts, Barrister. We'll take a break now. We will be back in a moment. Don't go away. It's Nigeria Decide Studios.